Hey everybody. So, this one's going to be about Alberta and Danielle Smith. As always, I am not an expert in the following topics. I just do my research. I'm just some guy. Enjoy. I'm one of those people that holds politicians to a pretty high standard, and I'm always disappointed, but that doesn't mean I lower my standards. Now it's time to take a look at the elected politicians we have here in Alberta, particularly Danielle Smith. I'll say right off the get-go, I don't like her, I don't respect her, and I don't believe she has the best interest of Alberta people at heart. That's the real issue Albertans are having. We live in a province that, monetarily speaking, should be much better off than most of the other provinces, despite the amount of money that we send to Ottawa. Now the problem here isn't that we send too much to Ottawa or the other provinces, it's that we're being bled dry from the inside, from the top down. Look at our healthcare system. My neighbor works at the Children's Hospital and she spends her off hours shopping for discount treats in bulk and individually packing them into care bags for the kids. That's her working the graveyard shift, coming home to sleep during the day, and then on her days off when she gets to enjoy some sun, she's inside doing more work. The people that do the work at their life-saving jobs aren't the problem here. They bust their asses every day. The problem is the continuous mismanagement of finances at the top levels. People of Alberta, hear me on this. This is not just a liberal problem. What we have here is our very own brand of Trump politician. This is the Canadian kind. The kind where Big Brother down south has been starting to get away with an awful lot and we're watching. Pretty soon our politicians are going to start mimicking the behavior with no experience. Trump has been Trump all his life, and only he has been able to get away with all the nonsense he's been able to get away with. He knows how to work the system so that it always benefits him. When our very own Danielle Smith thought she could mimic Trump and break the rules without consequence, there was a lot of persistent coverage about it. We aren't as distracted as the Americans, yet our daily information dump is still manageable. Normally this is where a political career would be over, but she again began mimicking Trump by interfering with investigations. If our taxes were well managed and not wasted by that kind of leadership, all of Alberta would be better off. And before we go and start screaming about Ottawa, we have to clean up our own backyards first. I'm going to go through a list, and if you're an Albertan, some of these things on this list may sound familiar. If you're not an Albertan, please listen anyway. Make fun of us because we need the kick in the ass. So let's start in 2022, in October. Some of you may remember from my first video, I'm a quarter Ukrainian. Danielle Smith's attitude towards the Russian invasion was that Ukraine either wanted to be a part of Russia or were provoking Russia into attacking by not remaining neutral. So, yeah, on Russia's side. Then in November, she tried to bypass the judicial system to see whether or not she could pardon people who broke quarantine laws during COVID. Then in December until January 2023, she interfered with the Coutts blockade trials. She contacted the prosecution, lied about it, and went on her merry way. No punishment. No regard for the rule of law. Then in January, there was the Sovereignty Act rollout, which basically tells the provincial entities that they don't have to enforce federal regulations if the provincial government tells them they don't want to. In April, she violated the Conflict of Interest Code when she got caught communicating directly with justice officials about COVID-related charges. One of the best things about Canada compared to the US is the guaranteed universal health care. And after already undermining the credibility of the healthcare system, she went further and started to push the elimination of public health care altogether. So her argument is that the healthcare system is failing and needs reform. What she hides is that her deliberate attempts to kneecap that system in the first place. She began introducing more for-profit clinics and private surgical contracts, and she wants to privatize our entire healthcare, further squeezing us financially. Then there's this arena. Now this one especially pisses me off. The new Scotia Place Arena. I won't go through all the BS, the pros and cons of building a new arena, but I will say that while our healthcare is suffering and our infrastructure is failing and the cost of living keeps going up, $537 million from just the city of Calgary and then another $330 million from the province seems like it could have been put to much better use. Then of course in April 2024, while cutting more and more public services, Danny Girl decides to spend $200,000 on new carpets. Continuing on, she continues to criticize the healthcare system and undermining its validity at every point while also cutting its support. Alright, then we have the healthcare contract, and this is one of my favorites. In January, she fired the Alberta Health Services CEO over asking too many questions about no bid and inflated contracts being awarded to MHCare and Alberta Surgical Group. That means they overpaid on contracts that other suppliers weren't even considered for. Why would a supposedly fiscally responsible conservative government do this? These contracts are not only overtly being put into the pockets of the ones in charge, but in some cases, the things that we paid for didn't even arrive. So MHCare, a company that landed $600 million in contracts, either couldn't handle a simple delivery, or they committed fraud with fake invoicing. And the kicker? Danielle Smith has been talking about bilking for the COVID vaccine because of waste. Soon she'll push for more and more privatization, which means she can squeeze more from us. This is the prime example of corruption in her office. And when it comes to separation, let's be honest, the idea of Alberta separation came at the perfect time for Smith. While her political career was immersed in the continuous scandals, especially the healthcare contracts, this was the distraction she needed. Now, everyone is focused on Alberta's sovereignty, and not the fact that we, the taxpayers, are still getting robbed blind. So Smith, like all people with something to hide, is trying to limit access to the information. She, like Trump, has been banning or restricting certain journalists from press events and declining to answer questions about certain key policies. She deliberately delays and refuses FOIP requests, Freedom of Information requests. Law enforcement likes to use the rhetoric, if you have nothing to hide, then you should have no problem showing me. I think if that excuse can fly for citizens, it should go tenfold for elected officials. The bottom line here is that Alberta is doing very well financially. We've taken a lot of money from the energy sector, and of course, Albertans are fed up with the cost of living, getting nickel and dimed at every turn. And Danielle Smith's goals are to make Alberta more like the United States, where you must pay for every single public service on top of paying your taxes. She's not interested in what's best for Alberta. She wants to get hers, no matter how many Albertans suffer. She needs to go, and I don't want a Trump-style narcissist representing me. She treats the public's money like it's her own personal slush fund. Now I have to believe that we Albertans still have a good head on our shoulders, and we can avoid what happened down south. If you vote Conservative, kick her out.